procession through regular means. In response, security authorities requested additional support, prompting the government to send Kenya Defence Forces helicopter to provide aerial surveillance of the convoy and enhance security across the entire route. Now, security chiefs say the move was necessary to ensure the procession was not disrupted and to maintain public safety. They emphasized that the crowd control is now a top priority to avoid any possible incidences or accidents during his historic period of national mourning. All right, at the same time, the public viewing of the body of the late former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga has resumed at Kasarani yesterday following a brief disruption earlier yesterday afternoon. Now, chaos erupted when dozens of Odinga's supporters attempted to forcefully access the VIP area where his body was being held for public viewing. Now, the crowd seemingly intended to enter the restricted section. Now, the disturbance, which occurred shortly after 3 p.m., prompted police officers to fire warning shots in the air and deploy tear gas canisters in an attempt to disperse the crowd. Also, Red High Court declines to stop Raila Odinga's burial, Rouse Rose. Now, inside the dangerously dramatic 7 hours after Raila's body touched down at JKIA, viewing of Raila's body in Kisumu changed to Jomo Kenyatta Stadium. A result, the stadium grounds were temporarily cleared with at least 2 individuals reportedly shot by security officers. And among the dignitaries present at the event are President William Ruto, Deputy President Kithure Kindiki, and the retired President Uhuru Kenyatta. Now tensions at Kasarani as police fired tear gas to disperse mourners who had gathered ahead to viewing the late Raila Odinga's body yesterday. Now the mourners had flocked to the venue early in the day, hoping to secure a spot inside before the gates were officially opened. Now the large crowd overwhelmed the police officers manning the entrances, leading to confusion and pushing the gates. Now the police were forced to use tear gas to control the situation and restore order. Right, moving on, tragedy marred the public viewing of the late former Prime Minister Raila Odinga at Kasarani Stadium yesterday as chaos broke out, leaving several people reportedly dead and many others injured. What began as a solemn occasion quickly escalated into disorder after massive crowds turned up eager to pay their final respects. Now, the large turnout overwhelmed the police officers stationed at the venue, leading to a stampede-like situation. In an attempt to control the surging crowd and secure restricted areas, police were forced to fire tear gas, sparking further panic and confusion among mourners. Emergency services responded swiftly, with ambulances seen ferrying the injured from the scene. Authorities have yet to confirm the official number of casualties, but eyewitnesses report that the situation escalated quickly due to a lack of crowd control and early crowd build-up before the gates were officially opened. Security has since been tightened at the stadium, with government officials calling for calm as the nation continues to mourn one of its most influential political figures. Right, quite unfortunate scenes that were witnessed yesterday at the Kasarani Stadium. Right now, members of the National Assembly have paid glowing tribute to the late ODM party leader Raila Amolo Odinga, describing him as a fearless and dedicated leader whose legacy will be remembered for generations. During a special parliamentary sitting held earlier yesterday in his honor, lawmakers praised Odinga for his unwavering commitment to justice, peace and development for all Kenyans. Now, despite many political challenges he faced throughout his life, the leaders hailed him as a patriotic politician with a genuine vision for the nation, calling him a symbol of integrity in Kenya's political landscape. They acknowledged his immense contribution to the advancement of democracy and human rights in the country, emphasizing that his legacy will continue to inspire future generations.
I was on his side. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Raila is an enigma, he's Baba, he's everything, and I believe to get somebody like him will take a long, long time. I don't think we will ever get somebody who has gone to detention, who has suffered for this country, and the way he has sacrificed himself. Had Honorable Raila not come through last year to form the broad-based government, I think we would have gone the Madagascar way.
I to eulogize the maverick, the enigma, the icon of Kenyan politics, the doyen just like his father, Raila Amolo Odinga. Raila Amolo Odinga can be remembered for many things, but I want to say I personally remember him for his honesty. He was a very honest politician. He was a politician who would not lie to you. If you're asking something and you can't get it, Raila Amolo Odinga will tell you that he's unable to give you that one, but you can get the alternative. I remember vividly.
Ili na mimi nitoe rambirambi na pole zangu. Basi kwa niaba yangu mimi mwenyewe na familia na kwa niaba ya watu wa Msambweni nataka kutoa rambirambi na pole zetu kwa familia ya mheshimiwa Raila.
Now, Meru Governor Isaac Mutuma mourned the passing of the late Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, describing him as a courageous and unwavering champion of human rights and democracy throughout his life. Now, speaking in Kariene Central Limenti, Governor Mutuma called for 2 minutes of silence in honor of the former Prime Minister, emphasizing that Raila's legacy will continue to inspire future generations. The governor made his remarks during the official launch of the National Livestock Vaccination Campaign against foot and mouth disease in Meru County. And according to Gitonga, the Chief Executive Officer of the Meru Dairy Cooperatives Union, the vaccination drive is expected to significantly boost milk production and improve livestock health across the entire county.
Mzee ambaye amepigania uhuru wa Kenya hii wa pili, uhuru wa pili, second liberation ya nchi yetu ya Kenya, His Excellency Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. Naomba tusimame, we observe a moment of silence kwa sababu ya kiongozi ambaye Mungu amemlaza wakati huu. May the Lord rest his soul in eternity. Tunaweza keti. Na pia mzee ambaye amepigania uhuru wa Kenya hii wa pili, uhuru wa pili, second liberation ya nchi yetu ya Kenya, His Excellency Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. Naomba tusimame, we observe a moment of silence kwa sababu ya kiongozi ambaye Mungu amemlaza wakati huu.
Now, the Orange Democratic Movement, that is ODM party, has appointed Siaya Senator Dr. Oburu Odinga as the interim party leader following the passing of Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. Speaking at the press briefing earlier yesterday, party officials confirmed that the decision was made by the ODM National Executive Committee in an emergency sitting. Next steps, Dr. Oburu, who is also the leader, or rather the elder brother of the late Raila Amolo Odinga, accepted the appointment with humility, promising to work closely with all party leaders to ensure ODM remains united and focused on its founding values of justice, equality, and democracy.
By the funeral organizing committee, which is chaired by the Deputy President, His Excellency Professor Kithure Kindiki, and co-chaired by Dr. Oburu Odinga, the party is aligned with arrangements which are in accordance with the party leader's wish that when he dies, he should be laid to rest within 72 hours.
Stated Parliament buildings today for public viewing from 12 to 5 o'clock. We encourage our members and supporters to head straight to Parliament for this event and to avoid Lee Funeral Parlour, which will have very minimal activity. Our respective parliamentary leaders in the National Assembly and the Senate will coordinate members of the parliamentary group and guide them accordingly on the program of events leading to the final day on Sunday, 19th October 2025. Likewise, majority and minority leaders in the county assemblies will do so at their levels. That the ODM remains united, just like it was during the Right Honourable Raila Amolo Odinga's time. We believe in unity of purpose, a stronger democratic party and a party that must live on for many years to come. With this regard, the NEC has designated the Senator of Siaya County, Honourable Dr. Oburu Odinga, to be the acting party leader until the time that the top party organs will meet and elect a substantive party leader to fit in the big shoes that have been left by our leader. Thank you, and may the soul of our party leader rest in eternal peace.
All right, it is exactly 36 minutes past the top of the hour. You're due for a short breather here on The Drift. But when we come back, I'm going to tell you what exactly is, the newspapers are saying this particular morning, being the 17th day of October 2025. Don't go too far.
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world. You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
All right, welcome back to the program. You're watching The Drift. My name is Martin Machara. Now let's take a look on what's making headlines on the dailies today. And I'm having the Standard newspaper and the Daily Nation newspaper dated today, the 17th day of October 2025. Now let's take a look on the what's making headlines on the Daily Nation front page. And top story on the front page of the Daily Nation says the people's funeral. And there is a picture there where hundreds of thousands of mourners at Thika Road Super Highway yesterday. And of course, as you can see on your screens, and it says Raila Amolo Odinga, who cemented his political credentials as a detainee over 4 decades ago, built a dramatic public career, often defying norms to other his own life chapters. Now in death, the towering opposition figure, like the enigma he was at the state layout, elaborate funeral plans, but a sea of humanity that turned up to receive the casket of their leader had their own plans. All right. Now the coverage on pages 2 all the way to 13. Let's take a look on some of the top stories on what made headlines yesterday during the viewing of the body at Kasarani Stadium, and crowd power overturns state funeral plans. Of course, we saw that actually during the first hours of when the mourners reached Kasarani Stadiums, and the police officers, were the tear gas, to disperse the crowd, the mourners, of course. But later on, they were allowed back in to view the body of their leader. And I made a suggestion that it was a plan by the National State Funeral Committee, which is coordinating the funeral journey of former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga, was reduced to as crowds and did virtually everything that had been scheduled. Now, when the committee addressed the media on Wednesday evening, it gave a plan that appeared workable. However, when the real execution began, plans had to be changed at the drop of a hat. Now, the huge crowds presented a logistical nightmare. Mr. Odinga's body was to arrive at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, that is the JKIA, by 8:30 a.m. Now, this was moved forward by an hour, and then be received by President William Ruto, which did not happen as the surging crowds overran the airport's defenses and poured in to the landing area. Now, from the airport, the body was to be transported to Lee Funeral Home, a plan that was abandoned altogether as the movement was too slow, and then taken to Parliament buildings at noon, which was also cancelled. Now, at Parliament, public viewing was scheduled to happen from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. However, the venue was changed to the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, where viewing started at about 20 minutes to 5. Now, the relocation to Kasarani was not without incident before the viewing began. After the convoy had maneuvered its way through the crowds, police opened fire while dispersing the crowds that had filled the stands and the pitch. Now, a man was shot in the head and was feared dead, right, with initial reports indicating multiple deaths and numerous injuries. Of course, in the Wednesday briefing, Professor Kithure Kindiki announced that Mr. Odinga's state funeral on Friday would happen at Nyayo Stadium. The venue was changed from Nyayo to Kasarani, as Friday was also gazetted as a public holiday. Now, after the state funeral, the body was to be moved from the former ODM's leader Karen home, where it was expected to remain on Friday night. Right? Those are some of what happened, some of the highlights of what happened during yesterday's procession from the JKA airport to Parliament, and then again to the Moi International Sports Center in Kasarani. Also, mourners breached JKA security. Mourners invaded a state pavilion, forcing cancellation of official reception for late opposition leader. And remember, yesterday we saw scenes of chaos at the Kasarani stadium, where one person is feared dead, and no official statement from the authorities in regards to that particular matter. Now, while opposition is now like a ship sailing in stormy waters, that's our story on page 4. Now, the death of Raila Odinga has exposed the soft underbelly of Odinganism for the first time since independence. Kenya is starting by staring at a political landscape without a towering Odinga figure at its center. Now, the man who for decades embodied resistance, negotiation, and power broking is gone, and with him goes the gravitation alphas to that held all together one of the country's most enduring political movements. What happens next will not only determine the fate of Odinganism, but may reshape the architecture of Kenyan opposition politics itself. Right? that's matters way forward on the ODM party. And you'll remember that the NEC appointed his elder brother, that is Raila Amolo Odinga's elder brother, that is Oburu Odinga, who also doubles up as the Siaya senator. Right, other stories making headlines on the Daily Nation this particular morning. House of Jaramogi dynasty without a throne, but not so far from power. That's a story on page 5. Of course, messages of condolences continue to pour in the newspapers as, of course, various institutions and continue, to mourn and eulogize the late Prime Minister, that is Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. Of course, on page 8 and 9, there are pictures right there of, the chaotic scenes, and of course, the mourners, the emotional scenes also that witnessed yesterday. There is a picture there of the President, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, and the widow of the late Raila Odinga, and of course, with the daughter also kneeling there to the mother. Also, there are pictures there of supporters of Raila Amolo Odinga hung onto a military truck on City Hall Way in Nairobi, awaiting viewing of the body at Parliament. The event was later moved to Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani. There are, pictures there of mourners hung onto, military truck in the Central Business District in Nairobi. Also, a woman wails as she mourns the death of Raila Odinga at his current residence in Nairobi. Also, a mourner sobs as she is comforted by a friend outside Lee Funeral Home. And of course, from all these images, you can see, rather, what's evident from all these images is that he was truly a leader of the people. And of course, there is a picture right there on page 9 of the Daily Nation, shows a man climbing a pole outside Parliament buildings in Nairobi. And of course, the pole actually is, the height. If you have ever seen, the Parliament buildings in Nairobi, there is a pole, but the building is structured in a way that there is a clock around somewhere. Now the pole is, is actually the same height with that particular building. And of course, the man is seen climbing at that particular pole, and he's wearing a jersey, seemingly from afar. It looks like a Manchester United jersey. All right. Also, there are, scenes right there of police confrontation with, mourners at Nairobi Central Business District yesterday, even as they marched to Kasarani Stadium. And of course, these people, these mourners marched from Nairobi CBD to Roysambu, Kasarani. In a normal day, it may seem impossible, but they marched from around 10 a.m. and they reached there at around approximately around 2:30 p.m. Right. Also on page 10, fading low barrel right was valid. That's a story on page 10 of the Daily Nation. Also, why ODM named Oburu Odinga its interim leader. That's a story on page 11 of the Daily Nation. Now let's take a look on what's making headlines on the Standard newspaper this morning. And top story on the Standard newspaper says the people's president. Right, that's the headline of the Standard newspaper this particular morning. And of course, also there are pictures right there, people viewing the body of the late Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. Also, there are pictures there of the, police officers transporting the body of the slain Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga to Kasarani Stadium. That was yesterday. Right, and there are hundreds of thousands of mourners right there. And of course, many of whom are the young generation. Right. Now, on page 2 of the Standard newspaper, there are pictures also of people mourning their leader. And of course, there is a picture there of the president, that is William Ruto, and former President Uhuru Kenyatta and Mama Ida Odinga attended the state reception of former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga at JKIA. Also, the body viewing, mourners viewed the body of former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga at Kasarani Stadium yesterday. Also, a contingent of police officers and military police at the funeral home manning that particular facility. Also, Raila Odinga supporters ride on a military van as part of the convoy escorting former Prime Minister's body along Mombasa Road. That was yesterday. Also, there are pictures there of mourners seemingly climbing, rather attempting to enter Kasarani Stadium to grieve and mourn Raila Odinga. Also, there is a picture there of mourners aboard a stationary aircraft and receiving the body of former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga. And of course, there is a man right there, he is hanging on to the tires of a stationary airplane that was on at JKIA. That was yesterday. And one may wonder, people have many styles of, or ways actually of mourning people. Maybe that's his way. Now on page 4 of the Standard newspaper, never was a Kenyan political hero so beloved by those he led. Now in declaring that the burial within 72 hours of his death, Raila Odinga, the East German trained mechanical engineer, must have imagined his final journey with the engineer's mindset systematic, structured, precise, but his plan appears to have ignored the norms and customs of his people and the raw passions and emotions that he whipped up among the millions who followed his beck and called for over 40 years. That's story on page 4. Never was a Kenyan political leader hero was so beloved by those he led. That's the title of that particular story on page 4 of the Standard newspaper. And of course, there are pictures right there of the family and Luo elders viewing the body of the opposition leader, that is Raila Amolo Odinga, at Kasarani Stadium. That was yesterday. Also on page 6, 7, also the story of the late Raila Odinga continues on and on page 8 also, all the way to actually the better part of the Standard newspaper this particular morning is grieving and mourning the late Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. Of course, the Standard also is giving the biography of the slain Raila Amolo Odinga, and it goes on and on and on and on to the last page of the Standard newspaper. Matters Raila Amolo Odinga and how his journey has been so far. And of course, you will see that on the front page of the Standard newspaper is the People's President title. And of course, also at the back page of the Standard newspaper is actually matters to do with the story and mourning and celebrating the life of Raila Amolo Odinga. All right. At that note, you are now up to speed with what's making headlines on the dailies today, this particular morning. Of course, today there is actually a procession also today being a public holiday, which was gazetted yesterday by the Interior Cabinet Secretary, that is Kipchumba Murkomen, who ordered that today be public holiday to remember the life of the late former Prime Minister, of course, the ODM party leader, that is Raila Amolo Odinga. And of course, today, people are heading to the Nyayo International Stadium, that is along Mombasa Road, and police also have been deployed, to man the area to avoid a chaos that was witnessed yesterday at Kasarani Stadium, that is in Nairobi. Also, I want to take a look on what's actually happening in that particular area. Now, people are actually, starting, to weigh in at Nyayo Stadium. Of course, we shall be keeping tabs with these particular developing stories, and of course, we shall be bringing you up to speed what's happening in Nyayo Stadium as far as this particular story is concerned. It is exactly 1 minute past the top of the hour. Taking a short breather here on the program, but when we come back, we're having the drift conversation part of it. Don't go too far.